Alright guys, in today's video, I decided to make the world's coolest amusement park ride out of scrap stuff that I had laying around the house. So why you haven't seen me in a while is partially due to I'm trying to build this and fix these all at the same time. As far as this drag axle Samurai goes, now this is the one that doesn't have rear steer. This one really is running pretty decent. The only thing I have that's a major issue is I got one locked up caliper, once again from sitting in South Dakota, and my power steering pump is just bad. I tried putting a bigger cooler on, tried changing a few things, and it's just bad. So what I did is I went ahead and got another pump from Trail Gear. The nice thing about that is Trail Gear already has these. You can get them with the pulley already on them, so I don't even have to mess with anything. When you have a high pressure steering pump, you always want your reservoir to be right near it and feed down into it. You don't want to have to try to feed up into it, or it won't really work right. It'll cavitate the pump. So you can see here how much higher this is from here, and it feeds right down here and right back into the pump. Now what I need to do is I need to break these lines loose, drain this fluid out, so I'm going to get an oil pan, and then I need to loosen this belt up because this is a 22R. The belt tensioner is over here. Loosen that up and I can pull the pump out. Got my Harbor Freight bucket from the off-road games. One of the reasons that I think this pump went bad, I always run Swepco power steering fluid, and Swepco is actually not very cheap at all. It's pretty expensive. So I also run this, which is basically Swepco but a lot cheaper. So I'll get AC Delco, and then I usually have pretty good luck with power steering pumps. Now the thing is I sold this buggy at one time and bought it back, and the guy for some reason decided that it needed royal purple. Ever since I got it back, I've had power steering issues, and I think a lot of it has to do with the royal purple. That's some nasty looking oil. When you go to fill this pump up, you don't want to suck air. You don't want to cavitate the pump. A little bit of air can kill a pump immediately. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is jack up the front end and then get it off the ground. I got the reservoir full, so we'll move the tires back and forth and then try to get some of that fluid through the system. Now even though this is an orbital valve, it'll still actually work some of the fluid through just going back and forth. And you can see just doing that a couple times already sucked all that fluid down. I had that thing almost just this shy off the top. So that's what you want to just keep doing until you stop losing fluid. At that point, then we'll go on to the next step. All right, so I've worked it a bunch of times. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just bump it. I went ahead and topped the thing back off. I got about this much from the top of my reservoir, and then we'll bump it and just suck it down. If I had a battery. Okay, so we cranked it a couple times, got it all full. Now we know that everything's good this way. I'm gonna go ahead and work it back and forth a couple times now with it running, but still no weight on the tires. And that way we can make sure we get all the air out. Now I just went back and forth at least 30 times to make sure there was any air bubbles that worked its way back out of the system. I don't have the cap on. Now I can go ahead and put the cap on, and we now have a functioning power steering pump, and this thing's ready to go back on the road minus my locked up brake caliper, but I might just hit that with a hammer and make it work for now. All right, well, now that I got the steering fixed on the Samurai, it's time to head up to South Dakota because I am finally going to get the stuff out of my garage. So super happy about that. So I might do one more little surprise build while I'm up there, And then I'm gonna grab the garage stuff. We're gonna work our way back down here to New Mexico and hopefully get it placed in this shop. So my motivation for this build actually came from a video I saw on TikTok, and now I gotta build one myself. And what I want to build is my own personal cheap Carnival ride out of spare junk I got laying around the house before I move it all out of here. So what you see here is a Chevy 10 bolt I had laying around. It isn't going to do anything other than maybe go to the scrap, or maybe I was going to use it on a hot rod, but you can find these a dime a dozen. They're everywhere. So I'm going to make it way more fun. First thing I want to do is turn this up and get it somewhat level. Now, with doing this, my oil situation, because the differential is normally sitting flat, you're going to get oil down at the diff. It's going to make everything not work right. What I'm going to go ahead and do is probably keep it like this for a little while, and then eventually what I'll probably do is end up pulling it apart and putting grease in there. I just want to see if I can get this thing to even work before I waste that time. But I'll pull it apart and drain the oil and pack it full of red grease every one of the bearings, because a pinion is not designed to stand straight up. So what I want to do is figure out how to mount a seat to this pinion yoke. And the best way I can do that is clean this up, and then I want to heat it up because this is cast steel. And so I'm going to weld a plate on here, but I'm going to cut a hole open big enough to still get into the pinion nut and tighten it down. Well, that's better than it was. I have this scrap piece of like 1.5 by 2.5 or 1.5 by 3 or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and use that, and that's going to go across the top of this axle here where I mount it, so I can mount a seat up here and have some grab handles probably. Now I went ahead and cut this piece 30 inches long, so at 15 inches right in the middle, I went ahead and marked a circle so that I can get to that pinion nut, and that's where I'm going to go ahead and torch these holes out with the plasma cutter. Now I can go ahead and heat this cast steel up with a rosebud and then burn this in just like that. Now I'm going to have to let this cool for a little bit. Here's a chunk of 1/8 inch 2x2 box that I had laying around from an old project. This is the only thing I think I had to buy. And this is from Harbor Freight. It was $14.99 or something like that. And I just need to get it so I can pull this thing around. So we'll go ahead and burn this on. It doesn't really have to be anything special because it's only pulling that. We now have our tow hitch. Now we got to figure out how to mount it. All right, so this piece of scrap is just another thin wall piece of like 1.5 box that I had laying around. And what I have here is just a little over 4 foot long. So I went ahead and just made my mark for 4 foot, then made my center mark for 2 foot. Now the split of that differential from axle to axle, I have 17 inches. So I'm just gonna go 19 inches to be safe. And I'm gonna make my cut lines here and here. I want to get a 90-degree angle out of this, so I'm going to set this at a 45. All right, now I'll go ahead and take my cutoff wheel and chop these at that 45 line, and that way I can fold them in and get 90 degrees. Now then what I want to do is go ahead, oh, really? Now what I want to go ahead and do, this is tough, is find my angle of this. So it looks like that's at 10 degrees. I want this to be at the same 10 degrees. Here's a spare seat I've had kicking around. Okay, the seat bracket is 9 inches from where it bolts to bolt, center to center. So I just got to go 4.5 inches out of each side here. Make my center line mark. And I'll just punch a couple holes in there and we'll be good. So I went ahead and used the step bit to draw out the backside so I can get a socket in there to get the bolts on for the seat. But the hole on this side, we have to get that on first so that we can get the pinion back on. And I want to just double check and make sure everything's going to fit on the seat first. Okay, so it looks like everything's going to line up, which is good. When I did the cage for my two-door Cherokee, I used a DNC Extreme pre-bent cage because it was already designed to fit inside, weld up. But I only did the front because I didn't have a back seat, so I didn't really care about having the design in the back. And what I'm going to do here, though, because these are the tubes that went into the back, if you were going to cage the back out for passengers, is I'm going to use that. I'm going to cut them down a little bit, and I'm going to set them out this way to clear just so that I can set some plates down so that your feet are a little bit safer inside. So when your feet are swinging around, when you're in this chair and you're swinging in circles, your feet don't accidentally catch a tire. Now what I did here was I went ahead and measured this out to this tire at 19 inches. So this will clear the tire. I don't have to worry about it hitting it, but I am going to go ahead and weld them in about out here and just make sure that everything's going to clear. And then I'll weld some plates across here and maybe one across here, and then we'll bolt the seat in. We'll see how it looks, and then we'll see if I need to do handlebars or something. Now what I can do is I'll cut this part out on this side, and then I'll push this down, and then I'll cut the top off where I need it. Alright, now I can go ahead and chop the top off, and then I'll work on cleaning this up and tacking it in more. Okay, so the bolt is the right length, but I can't get it to get in there because it's falling too deep into the socket. So I shoved a little piece of blue rag in there, and now it sits, now it sits where it's supposed to, just like that. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do, this was the old bolt mounts, so I'll go ahead and drill holes through here and bolt that into that plate as well, and that'll just kind of keep it down on there a little bit better. So the only thing I'm kind of not sure about is, do I want to put some hip guards on here? If you start spinning really fast, I mean, theoretically it should shove you into the back of the seat, but if you stop fast, that might launch you right out of it. I mean, theoretically, I could use this stuff. Set that there. Set that there. I think that's what we're going to do, because then it's scrap and I can use it. Okay, so I got this set up right here The trick to making sure this is going to be straight is just put a tube in the notch, and then you can kind of adjust it to where you think it needs to be. All right, now what we can do is go ahead and clean up around here, let this thing cool off for a bit, and then let's give it a run. Oh yeah. Oh my gracious! Oh, it's so fast! Oh, it's so fast! So fast! This is what totally works. Oh, the whole world's spinning right now. I think I have to use that and then make a race.
Oh, I am gonna puke so.
All right, so after riding in this thing, I can tell you that it goes really, really, really fast. I think what I'm gonna do is try to find some offset out wheels and some huge tires, and that way it may not spin as fast at the pinion. But this thing is cool, man. I mean, I just built it in basically about an hour and a half, 2 hours out of spare junk that I had laying around. And I don't know if it gets any cooler than this. I'm gonna bring this down to Farmington, New Mexico for Four Corners Week Fall Crawl during September 2nd through the 8th. And I will have this there, I will have a booth there. I hope to see you guys there. And I'll even put a link down here if you guys wanna sign up for it. I even was able to get them to give me a little bit of a discount if you sign up. So hopefully I'll see you guys there, and maybe we can have a little fun running around downtown. Finally moving my shop from South Dakota to New Mexico. This U-Haul is loud. I have a 26-foot truck, and it is packed to the gills. So working my way to Farmington, and I am on Wolf Creek Pass in southern Colorado. I can tell you right now, if you're ever looking for a beautiful pavement-driven adventure, this is the road to take. Come out and take Wolf Creek Pass in the springtime. Just drive the speed limit though. Don't be like most people, and check it out because it is absolutely beautiful, and it is probably one of the prettiest paved passes in the country. All right, so everything's moved down here. In case you're wondering about this shop, so this building was here. The paneling was completely roached though. Everything was bad. So we had to put new paneling on, replace parts, replace some pieces. And now I am waiting. I'm trying to get spray and insulation. Hopefully that'll be there this week so I can get spray and insulation done. And then we're gonna try to wire it in. So I've been waiting for a few things to get the electrical permits to get more power out here. It did have power here. I'll show you this. Chickens and turkeys. So it had power out here to this shop originally, but it was done all hokey, and when your brother's a licensed electrician, he's not gonna let you get away with junk going to your new shop. So he's gonna help me work on this once I get the spray and insulation, and maybe we'll do a video on that. If you guys are interested on kind of how to do your own electrical work, that'd be something different. He would show us how to do it right. And you can see here, I have my entire garage packed in the middle of this thing. I have roof height. I need to still find a lift. This is the shop, guys. So this is where future builds will be happening. My neighbor was kind enough to let me borrow his scaffolding so that we could work on this stuff. So if you guys like this video, check these out. Thanks for watching. I appreciate every one of you. Please make sure you like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye. Steering away, one finger on concrete with a locker up front. So